Hey there, Stampers. Welcome to the July 2022 Global Stampin Video Hop. My name is Sherry Roth from Stamped Treasures. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I'm excited to be part of this video hop this month. Now, our theme this month is layered cards, so we can interpret that however we wish, and I'm going to share a few different ways that you can add layers to your cards today. And I can't wait to see what everyone else has created for this blog hop. Just remember that you will find the next video in the hop in the description below, as well as a full supply list to all of the supplies that I use today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is the card that I'm going to create today. So I have layered different inks, I've layered some die cut elements, and I've layered some DSP. So lots and lots of layers on this card. This card is so dimensional that it would definitely require extra postage, and it would definitely be a card that I would send to someone who is extra special. All right, so let's first chat about the supplies that I'm using. Now I am using the Splendid Thoughts bundle from the July to December 2022 mini catalog, as well as the Wonderful World bundle, which is a celebration offering. Celebration runs until the end of August 2022, and that is free with a qualifying purchase of, here in Canada, it's $120. So you get both the stamp set and this beautiful DSP. So you can see that we've got some beautiful floral patterns in this DSP, and these are great for punching out or fussy cutting. This one is another great one for fussy cutting. So we've got floral patterns on the one side, and then we've got more simple geometric kind of patterns or smaller patterns on this side. And the colors are fabulous. So we're going to work with this today. And a few other products that I'll kind of introduce as we go through. All right, I'm going to set this up here, pull out our pieces. Now I've pre-done some of this. Okay, so our card base is a piece of basic white. It's just a standard size card base. This is thick basic white. So 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4. And we're going to set this aside because we're going to build everything on a layer of white that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I've got my 3 layers of DSP. So this is going to be my top layer, this is going to be my next layer, and then this is going to be my final layer, my bottom layer. Okay. Actually, before we talk about the DSP, we have to add our ink to this layer. So I am going to start with Pear Pizzazz. We're going to do a little bit of blending. I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper here. All right, so I'm going to use my blending brush and just ink it up here. I'm going to tap off some of that excess ink just on my scrap, and then very lightly, I'm going to go in a circular motion. So we are adding our first layer and just a hint of color. Now this top bit is going to end up being covered, so I'm not too concerned with that. I just want a little bit of this green color peeking out from behind my cluster or my focal point. Okay, so that should be good. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this image from the Splendid Thoughts stamp set. We're going to ink it up again with the Pear Pizzazz. So this is our second layer. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp there, and then right there. Again, I just want a little bit peeking out from behind my focal point. Okay, so that's the second layer of ink that we've added. Now we're going to add another layer, and this time, actually let's bring that scrap back, and we're going to move this out of the way. I don't want to splatter on that. We're going to do some splattering. So I am using my dark Orchid Oasis Stampin' Blend. This is an alcohol marker, and I'm going to use my bone folder and just tap and just keep doing that until I'm happy. And that is our third layer of ink, so a little bit of splattering. So you can see that it's just a really fine splatter. I love doing that for just a little something extra. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our snips and we're going to distress the edges of this. I'm actually only going to do 3 sides for now, because I'll need to touch up. I'll need to do the top once I get my DSP on here. And this bit I don't even need to go all the way up. So just distressed it a little bit, just using my paper snips. Okay, so now we can set that aside. Now we can bring in our 3 layers of DSP. So I specifically chose some pattern papers with different scales of patterns. So this one is a little bit busier. This one has a smaller pattern, but it's not as busy. And then this one has an even smaller pattern just closer together. So when you put them together, they look really good. If I had picked 3 busier patterns like this, it would give it a completely different look. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and about 1.5 inches from the top, I'm going to hold it with my left hand and tear with my right hand, because I want that white core from the DSP showing. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, now I should have mentioned that these are 4 1/8 inch wide. It doesn't really matter how long you have them because you're tearing them. So you just want them the same width as this layer. Okay, now what I'm going to do, so that I don't waste a lot, I'm going to put this down just a little bit and hold it in place, and then kind of follow that tear line. So again, holding with my left hand and tearing with my right. Now if you're left-handed, you'd want to reverse it if you want that white core showing. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat it with this one. Again, holding it a little bit lower. It doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, you don't want it to be. That's the whole point of tearing, right? So just tearing along the edge here. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take the edge and give it even more dimension by kind of curling up the edges. Okay, so I'm doing that for each one of these layers. Okay, and then we'll use, actually just for the sake of speed, we're going to use our seal adhesive. I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive to the back of this. Position this on here. Actually, let's put it a little bit further down so that we don't have as much of that razzleberry pattern showing. And then we'll do that again with the green. All right. Okay, and then we can fold those up a little bit more if we want more dimension. And then we're going to add these layers. So we've layered ink, now we've layered DSP or patterned paper. And this will cover most of, well, a lot of, maybe not most of what we've added on here. And just line that up. And then I'm going to take my paper snips and just go over just the edges where I've added the DSP. So this just gives it kind of a distressed look. Kind of fits with the ink blending and that little bit of splatter, and just gives it a little bit more texture. Okay. All right. Now this layer is ready to be added to our card base. So I'm just going to use some seal. And we'll have just a sliver of the white showing all the way around the edges, so about 1/16 of an inch, because we've only cut it about an eighth of an inch smaller than the actual card front. Okay, now we need to do some stamping. So I'm going to use this image from the Wonderful World stamp set. So this one here, that's going to be my focal point. And I'm going to use some Orchid Oasis ink. We're going to stamp that on there. And then I'm also going to stamp my envelope as well. So where's my scrap here? Bring this back and we'll stamp an envelope to match. I always like to create something for the inside of my card and then also a matching envelope when I'm stamping. While I have everything out, it just makes sense to do that at the same time. All right. Okay, now there are no dies for this, so this will need to be fussy cut. I've gone ahead and I've done that because I didn't want you guys to sit here and watch me fussy cut. So when I fussy cut, I leave a little bit of a white border around the edges. So just a tiny little bit. And it just allows for your flaws not to be as noticeable if you leave that white edge around it. So we've got that. And then what I've done is I've taken some of the dies from the Splendid Stems die set. And as you can see from here, I die cut this one from white. And then I die cut 2 of these from Pear Pizzazz cardstock. Okay, so these are going to be some of the die cut shapes that we are going to layer. So this is our 3rd layering technique here. All right, now initially my plan was to just put this right on here, but you can see that it's really busy and the image kind of gets lost. So I felt like it needed something to just kind of ground everything, to hold everything together. So I pulled out my trusty scallop contour dies. I use these so often. In my opinion, they should be in everyone's collection. And I just wanted it to be subtle. So I didn't want it to take away from the background from everything that we've just added. So I decided to cut it from vellum. So I used the 3rd smallest and I die cut that from a piece of vellum. Okay, so now actually, we have one more thing. Before we start assembling, we have one more thing to do. We need to stamp our greeting. So I'm going to use the greeting, Let's Celebrate. This is from the Splendid Thoughts stamp set. And I'm just going to use some Memento ink. Stamp this on my white. And then I'm going to use this fun little semicircle die from the Splendid Stems dies. We'll bring in our mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss, and we're actually going to need to trim this so that it fits here. So just trim this so it's a little bit smaller. Open this up and we'll grab the plates. Okay, now with this machine, you will have the greatest success if you stagger your plates. So I've got my plate number 1 down, my plate number 2, and you can see that there's a little bit of space there. And then I'm going to position this on here. Let's turn it around so that I can see if it's straight. So I'm going to position this on here. And then I'm going to put my second plate number 2 just carefully on top, trying not to move that. And again, it's a little further back. And then when I slide it in, it grabs nicely and feeds through. If you try to line them up so that they're all even, you may find that you struggle trying to get it to go through. All right, so this gives you just those tiny pierced holes just along the sides there, which is so fabulous. It's a nice little detail that they add. All right, so now we've got all of our pieces. We are ready to assemble. Now, because this is a piece of vellum, I am not going to adhere this on here because I want to strategically place my dimensionals so that you can't see them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my focal point, so all my layers, to this scallop background, and then I'll add my dimensionals. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of adhesive on the back of that white, and I like to just add a little bit of adhesive to the wider points because then you get a little bit of dimension. Okay, so they kind of sit off of the background. Makes it look like they've got a bit of movement, that they're alive, just like plants should be. Put that one on there. So it looks a little busy right now, but this will take away some of that busyness. I'm just going to add a few dimensionals to the back here. And then we're going to position this on here like that. And then what I'm going to do is, I had a piece of twine. Oh, here it is. It fell on the floor. Okay, I have a piece of white twine. If you are new to my channel, new to following me, I am a baker's twine lover. Baker's twine, linen thread, any kind of narrow twine. I use it all the time. I just love just that little bit of fiber that gets added to projects, and it's just something that I use often. I go through a lot of baker's twine. Okay, so I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool and just peel off a mini glue dot, and we're going to stick that right on here. So I have gone ahead and I've tied a relatively large bow. I want my loops to be on the larger side so that you can see them, because my greeting is going to go on top. So I put it kind of at an angle, and then this is going to get popped up on the side. So I'm going to grab a couple more dimensionals. And this is going to sit right on here. So I wanted to be able to see the loop and the stems of my baker's twine in behind there. And look how fabulous that looks. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so now we need to adhere it to our card. And because we curled this up, that is a lot of dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to bring in my dimensionals, and I'm going to put a double layer of dimensionals on here. I'm going to try to avoid where this is going to go. So I'm going to put some more up here. So I'm doing a double layer just so that it sits nicely over top of that. So just put one on, peel the backing off, and then stick another. And then let's see, we should be able to fit one more on here. I've got one there. Actually, let's try that and see how well it sits. Oh, I think I forgot to peel off the backing on this one. Yeah, I did. Okay, let's toss that one and grab a new one. All right. So we're going to grab that, bring our card back in, and center this on here. Yep, that's held on there. Our dimensionals stick really well, so that's good. And then the last step to the outside of our card is I'm going to use a few of these in color matte decorative dots. So these are the 2022-24 in color matte decorative dots in the Orchid Oasis. And I'm just going to peel off a few of those. And add these to my card front just to finish off that card. And there we go, a stunning card with so many layers. So we've got layers of ink, we've got layers of DSP, we've got layers of die cuts, so many options. And of course you can choose just any one of these and create cards. So I could have simply just stuck with the background that we created with the layers of ink and added my greeting to that, or added my flower to that. I could have omitted that and just used the layers of DSP and added my greeting or my focal point to that. And then again, I could have just taken this whole embellishment cluster, these layers of dies, and just simply added that to a card front as well. So lots and lots of options. And then of course we've got our matching envelope. And then remember I said that I liked to create on the inside as well. So what I did was I took these extra pieces that I had, and I'll share what I did on this inside. I just tore some samples and repeated the layering on the inside of my card as well. All right, So I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and with all of the layers, and I hope that you guys give one of these or all of these a try. If you live in Canada and would like any of the supplies that I've used today, please feel free to visit my online store, which is linked below. And don't forget to check the link below and be sure to hop through everyone's video hop to see how everyone interpreted our challenge this month of layered cards. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you are not yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Take care.